And y'all, I'm gonna apologize up front. I was munching on popcorn and I'm still like dealing with popcorn, so my bad. If you see me go off, it's just because I don't want to be rude with teeth.
Thank you for the warning.
So I know that we have two new alternates on, Mr. English and Miss Larson. So welcome to you guys. We're just waiting for everybody to hop on and then we'll get started in a few minutes.
Thank you.
And just a note that we are live streaming.
Hi, Chevelle. Happy Wednesday. All right, Jenny, are we are live stream.
We are.
Mr. Chair, I believe you can get started whenever you're ready.
All right, very cool. Yeah, we're at 6:02. We'll go ahead and call this thing to order. Of course, this is a live stream meeting, so that we need to be reminded that we have to identify ourselves as we're speaking. And then, of course, all votes have to be conducted by roll call to comply with these virtual meeting laws. With that being said, we'll go ahead and get a roll call. Ms. Seidel, if you'll get that going for us, and then we'll get into the meat of this.
Sure. And for our newer folks, so when we do roll call, go ahead and say that you're here, but when we do the actual votes, we'll do the delegate, or I know in Miss Larson's case, you're filling in for the delegate, so you can vote in that case.
All right, thank you.
All righty. Anger,
Chevelle Harmon, Town of Anger, here.
Chatham County, City of Durham, Durham County,
Michelle Burton, Durham County here.
Hillsborough,
Sorry about that. Kathleen Ferguson, Hillsborough, present.
Rob English, Hillsborough. I don't know if I count on this vote or not, but Rob English from Town of Hillsborough is here also.
Yep, this is just our roll call. So yep. Holly Springs,
Sarah Larson, Holly Springs here.
Johnston County, Lee County,
Lee County, Kirk Smith here.
Moore County, Orange County, Pittsburgh, Sanford, Selma,
Byron McAllister, Town of Selma, here.
and Wake County.
Susan Evans, White County here.
All right, we have quorum.
Very cool. And so that will bring us into getting to know CPRC. But what we'll do is, for the folks that are new to the executive committee, our executive committee meetings are made up of a particular group selected from our board of delegates, our county members, of course, our officers are part of that executive committee as well. In these executive committee meetings, we do try to take care of time-sensitive matters if we can't get to a full board of delegate meeting, and we do take care of more sensitive matters related to particularly staff, particularly evaluations related to leave before we get to the full board, to make sure that more sensitive matters are handled in an appropriate manner. So we do see some very important information come through these executive committee meetings. In fact, on tonight's meeting, we will be taking a look at some information related to our audit, and we'll have our audit presentation this evening. So sensitive matters like that, or some higher level matters are taken care of here in our executive committee meeting. So welcome to our alternates and our new members to the executive committee, and we look forward to working with you as we approach these matters for Central Pines Regional Council. With that, we do have an agenda in front of us. Taking a look at the agenda, we've got an audit presentation. We've got Triangle J Regional Corporation 501c3 information. We've got a CPRC Digital Opportunity Hub conversation to have. And then on our consent agenda, we've got a couple of sets of minutes, and then that Digital Opportunity Hub resolution would be added consent if we're all okay with that, a budget amendment to add to consent, and a Triangle West Transportation Planning Organization budget amendment. And then we'll go down to around the region. We'll probably actually skip past the chair's report, not unless does Lindsay plan on taking care of that? Anybody?
I think you mean Jenny.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I was getting
Yeah.
off mute. Yes, I will
No,
take
you're cool.
that.
You might see Lee on the agenda, but Lindsay will be taking care of information for Lee this evening. So we have that chair's report. We have my chair's report. We've got the executive director's report. And then if we have other business, we'll touch on that as well. So with that, does anybody have any concerns about the agenda as is? All right, hearing no objections, we'll go ahead and approve this agenda, and that is going to bring us into an exciting audit presentation.
Thanks, Mr. McAllister. I just want to quickly introduce Leanne, and I'm going to let her say her last name because I'm always afraid I'm going to mispronounce it. But she is with Mauldin and Jenkins. They performed our audit this year for FY 2025, and just really appreciated her and her team's diligence and professionalism during that audit. And so I will hand the presentation off to her. Thank you, Leanne.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you need me to present my presentation or do y'all have it? Oh, perfect. Awesome. So I'm Leanne Bagasala. I'm an audit partner at Mauldin & Jenkins. And if we progress to the next slide, I'll go over the different things that we're going to cover. I am going to tell you who your engagement team is this year, because this is our first year being the external auditors for the council. And just want to make sure you're aware of kind of who Mauldin & Jenkins is. I'm also going to go through your audit opinions and your compliance reports and kind of talk through those and talk to the different opinions that you received. There are a couple of slides of required communication that we will go over. Sometimes, a lot of you are from other boards, and sometimes that's in the form of a letter, but we do that in the form of a PowerPoint presentation. And then there's a couple standards that are coming up that everyone needs to be aware of. But at any time, if you have any questions, please feel free to stop me. The next slide that we have is a little summary of who Mauldin & Jenkins is, and I apologize, they changed this last week. We merged with the firm on December 1st, so we are much larger. We're considered a national firm now. We operate in 8 states and we have 19 offices, and we have over 43 government partners that just specialize in local governments. About a third of our practice is local government, and in the state of North Carolina, we are expanding rapidly. We do a lot of the counties and the municipalities that this council focuses on. So we thought this was a great opportunity and something that we strongly put forth a lot of effort in, the bid selection that you guys just went through. So this is just a little depiction of who we are. I served as your engagement partner, so I was the one that ultimately signed your audit opinions. But there was always a second partner, and that second partner was Tim Lyons. He is another partner that is in charge of the Raleigh office, but he's actually based out of South Carolina. And he does a lot of other North Carolina government audits. And then Randolph served as your senior associate. On the next slide, we'll go through your audit opinions. So your first audit opinion is in the front of your financial statements. And that opinion basically says that we consider the internal control structure of the council when reviewing the basic financial statements, but we did not express an opinion on the effectiveness of internal controls. We did perform our audit in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles as well as government auditing standards. And our objective is to provide reasonable but not absolute assurance that the basic financial statements are free of material misstatements. But ultimately, those financial statements are the responsibility of management. For your financial audit opinion, you received a clean or unmodified opinion, which is the highest level of assurance that we can provide that your financial statements present fairly in accordance with generally accepted accounting standards. But our responsibility does not extend beyond the report that's presented. On the next slide, you will see that we issued 3 reports over what we call compliance reports. The first one is an opinion on government auditing standards. Sometimes we refer to that as your yellow book opinion. And in that opinion, we do test internal controls of the council, not all of them, but the important ones. And in that report, we did not find any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies noted. So no findings were noted, no compliance issues were noted, and you received an unmodified opinion for your yellow book report. From the compliance report perspective over the federal and state grants, we did have to audit several programs during the year where you received federal and state programs. So I listed them on the slide, obviously aging being one of your biggest. We also tested the highway and construction grant. We tested NC10, which is a portion of your aging funds that is state-based, and then we test the rideshare program, which is also a state program. From those audits, we didn't audit the entire federal and state expenditures that the council receives, but a large subset of those expenditures. And we issued 2 opinions. The first one is on the council's federal programs in accordance with the Uniform Grant Guidance and the State of North Carolina Implementation Act, and you received an unmodified opinion. And then we also issued a report on the council's state programs in accordance with the same standards, and you received an unmodified opinion. So altogether, you received 4 audit opinions, and they were all what we consider clean audit opinions. We also did issue a management letter for the board. That management letter is just recommendations that we have. Just, coming in as a new auditor, sometimes we look over things and just say, hey, this might be something that you should consider. They're not findings in the respect that they're not a significant efficiency or material weakness, just some things that we wanted to let the board know of. And there's only one item on there. And that item, I'm going to read it because it's a little long, but I'll kind of summarize it. During our testing, we noted that the Triangle West Transportation Planning Organization, which is a transportation planning organization led under a lead planning agency agreement with the council, that group operates under their own policies and procedures. And sometimes those policies and procedures do not align with the council's policies and procedures. So we recommend that the TWTPO work with the council to review all of their policies and procedures and make sure that they're in compliance with applicable federal and state laws, best practices for local government accounting, and also for grant counting, and to ensure that there's always appropriate documentation supporting the general ledger balances and the information that's provided to the council. And so that was just one of the recommendations that we had, just kind of reviewing through the work and the testing. Obviously, some of the financial information that is included in your financial statements comes from them, and just making sure that they're following the same controls that the council is. On the next slide, you'll see a couple of required communication slides. And those are, the first one is that within the financial statements, there are significant accounting policies that management has selected. Most of those are disclosed within note 1 of your financial statements. In the current year, we did implement 2 GASB pronouncements, GASB 101 for compensated absence and GASB 102 for certain risk disclosures. These didn't have a material impact on the council's financial statements other than what you have previously disclosed. all the policies that the council has appear to be in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. And we're not aware of the council being involved in any controversial or emerging issues. Also, within your financial statements are some judgments and accounting estimates. Some of those are based on past experience and history, and some of those are actuarially determined. And so our job as auditors is to review those estimates and judgments made and make sure that they appear reasonable. And we didn't have any issues with the estimates used by management. The next slide tells you that from a relationship standpoint, we received full cooperation from the council's management. We had no disagreements or anything that I think that should alarm you or, raise a red flag. It was a good working relationship. As part of the audit, we do require management to sign a management representation letter. That's required for all audits to issue. And basically that says that management, throughout the audit gave us accurate and complete information for us to perform our audit. If at any time during the year the council consulted with any other accountants, we would like to know. Throughout the year, we're not just here for the audit. We would like to help throughout the year, but if at any time, there's a need to talk to other accountants, we would like to know. And then the fourth bullet basically says that there was no significant issues discussed during the audit that I think we should bring to your attention. The next slide tells you that there was no past audit adjustments. And that means that the books and records that we received to audit are what you see presented in front of you, and there was nothing that we passed on adjusting. The second bullet basically tells you the disclosures of the financial statements are an integral part of understanding the numbers of the financial statements. And as part of our audit, we did review all disclosures to make sure they're neutral, consistent, and provided clarity. The third bullet tells you that if you provide your basic financial statements to anyone, we ask that you do not add to or take away from the financial statements. You keep them in whole as presented and issued. And the last disclosure we have is that Maltas & Jenkins is independent of the council and their financial reporting process. The next slide goes over a couple things that are coming up in the future. What we'll need to look at for the coming up year is GASB 101 and GASB 104, and we will work with management to make sure they understand these standards and we're getting them properly implemented. And then there are a couple projects that are going on with GASB, but these projects have been going on for a really long time. And so whenever they do become standards, we'll make sure that management is aware of what is required out of those new standards. And then the second to last slide is related to our core offerings. As your auditor, we are independent of the council. There are some projects that we can help with from an advisory standpoint. And so we add this slide for new clients, so just to give you an idea of some of the things that we do, our advisory group does. And they're listed here. Some of them we can do and maintain independence, and some of them we cannot do and maintain independence. But a lot of different concepts of things that we can look at, not just doing the audit. And then the last slide that we have here is that as part of an additional service that we provide to our clients, we do offer free continuing education to the folks that need CPE to maintain their CPA license. And this slide gives you information of how to get added to those lists if you would like, but this is generally for quarterly trainings that are about 6 to 8 hours. So it's a lot of free CPE that we offer. And that's it. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions? Any questions? Let's see. I think we have something in the chat.
So, Leanne, this is Susan Evans. Regarding the concern that had to be highlighted from the partner agency, EWTPO, if that situation doesn't get resolved, what does that look like for next year? 'Cause we're having trouble being in control of it.
So we were able to substantiate from a testing perspective what we needed to in terms of like expenditures, but our audit doesn't hone in specifically on all the transactions from that agency. So we're only testing a
Okay.
subset of what's going on. If we were to have pulled the grant for that entity, you may have a different audit result than what you have now, because I think some of the issue is documentation and ensuring that there's some documentation. So we did do some extra procedures, but in the current year, from a risk perspective, we did perform a risk perspective to make sure that, knowing that there's some documentation issues or some things that are a little bit harder to get, we considered that in our risk assessment, but they could always decide to pick one of the grants that they operate for the next coming up year. And so we just wanted to stress to make sure that the council, while you don't have full control of what's going on and they have their own departments and people that do stuff, that the council is ultimately responsible for ensuring that the documentation is up to par and that, what you're presenting in your financial statements is correct.
Thank you. I wanted you to clarify that. Because it is a bit of a concern, and not all the people in this meeting tonight are aware of everything that's been happening there. And I don't want to make it a long conversation, but Byron, you may just want to highlight that you and I have met with the TWTPO chair and vice chair and our staff and their staff, and are trying to encourage getting us to a better place on all of this, but we're not. It's been very recent. We're not sure what the outcome's going to be. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, and I'll ditto that statement completely. And we are going to attempt to work through, I guess, the concerns we have related to the accounting and financial practices of Triangle West as it relates to being lumped into our operation. Just to give you everybody some background, we do have an LPA, a lead planning agency agreement with Triangle West to pretty much manage their funds. So our CFO is their CFO. By the way, the agreement is set up. That is an agreement that we have been in with Triangle West since 2023. And so I think initially with both of our boards, we didn't have a full understanding of the details of that agreement. And now that it's becoming more clear to pay some close attention to the setup of that agreement and operationally how finances are handled with Triangle West and Central Pines Regional Council, we're going to work together to see if we can get some practices in place to make sure that all of the needs financially are met for both organizations. So that's where we are right now. We're going to circle back and I believe have a conversation with the board members in May, as we've made a couple of adjustments to our practices and had some conversations about how we can work together going forward. Any other questions related to our audit conversation here? Hearing none. Fantastic presentation. Sounds like our Central Pines staff is handling our financial business fantastically. Hope, you're amazing. As always, thank you very much. Malden Jenkins, thank you very much from Central Pines Regional Council, and thank you from the town of Selma as well. Very much appreciate you.
And might add our award-winning CFO.
Yes, our award-winning CFO. Got to make sure that's clear. #1 in the state, from what I understand.
Oh, mercy.
So.
Okay. Let's move on. Thank you so much, Leanne. I appreciate all of your hard work.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so that brings us down to some business items that we have to look at. Triangle J, Corporation 501c3.
Yes, and good evening, everybody. I'm Jenny Halsey. I'm the Deputy Director here. Lee is not able to be with us tonight, so I will be handling his items on the agenda. So good to see a lot of you and nice to meet some of you. So back in 2019, the then Triangle J Council of Governments established the Triangle J Regional Corporation as a nonprofit arm of the organization, and that nonprofit is governed by elected officials and staff from our member jurisdictions. Due to various reasons, COVID being one of them, the nonprofit has not been utilized in a way that we thought it would be, and we would now like to revive that nonprofit. However, we have since gone through a name change at the organization, and so we would first like to propose getting that board back together in the coming weeks. That and propose reactivating the nonprofit entity, but also going through the name change process to align with the Central Pines brand. And then also to align, as you can imagine, we already have a 50-member board, a 14-member executive committee, and then another nonprofit board. So aligning our nonprofit board to the executive committee, which would just not be an additional meeting for you all either. It would we would just be able to bring our business and budget amendments to these meetings in the future. So we have not had the conversation with the nonprofit board yet, but we are preparing to in the coming months. Elena and I have worked with Ginger Booker, who is a nonprofit attorney. She is the one that helped us set up the nonprofit originally, and she is walking us through the steps of the name change with the IRS and all of that as well. So we feel like we have a good path forward once we can get the nonprofit board back together. And then hopefully the idea is that we can diversify and increase funding in some of these regional initiatives that we're working on. So just wanted to provide you guys some background and context of what is hopefully to come down to you guys in the next few months. Happy to take any questions.
Jenny, this is Susan. I just had a question about who is on this board.
Yes.
Since they haven't met in a long time.
Great question. And some folks are unfortunately not living anymore. And then there are some that have worked at different, may work at different jurisdictions. If you look, it's in the bylaws that are attached, but there are some people that are with us tonight that are on the board. So Kathleen Ferguson in Hillsborough is on the board. Deidreana Freeman with City of Durham. Sig Hutchinson is on there. See Ronnie Curran with Rollsville's on there. And then we have various staff members from around the region in different roles at your local governments.
Well, I mean, how did we go about choosing who was on that board way back when it was doing anything?
It's a great question. And I was not involved during that time. I think we wanted to, sorry, was there a question?
Actually, I was.
Yes, you can speak to that. Yes.
I can speak to that. It was actually the greater board where there was sought volunteers. There was a nominating committee from the greater board, meaning at that time Triangle J, and then the board did that vote, and then as part of that, we had the officers, we'd had the board and succession plan, but that was how that came about.
And, some of not only COVID, but we've also had some staff turnover and retirements that were part of this and original nonprofit. And then it just never got transitioned well over to new staff as we were navigating COVID. And now we have a nonprofit named Triangle J. So.
I, for one, would support the idea that the membership of said board would be the same as executive committee. That seems like a easier thing to keep track of.
Yeah, Jenny answered my first question. Would that mean an extra meeting? And with the answer being no, fantastic.
Yes, we would have to keep, you know, separate minutes and whatnot with that, but as far as y'all are concerned, it would just be a seamless one meeting and we would just, you know, shift our business to the nonprofit and do budget amendments for them and whatnot. So
I do support that idea as well. I think it's wise.
great. Okay.
Do we have any other questions, comments related to the 501c3? All right, hearing none. Next piece of business items, Digital Opportunity Hub.
Yeah, hi, good evening. I'm Lindsay Whitson. I'm the Community and Economic Development Director with Central Pines, and I will be talking about a digital opportunity hub that we have made at CPRC. And if everyone on the board agrees, we will put it on the consent agenda. So we have a resolution attached in your agenda packets to be hopefully approved on behalf of the Digital Opportunity Hub. I'll go a little bit more into the why we want approval and whatnot. But if you can go to the next slide, please. So just to give a little bit of an overview of some of the work we've done around digital opportunity over the last couple of years. So we got some funding from the Institute of Emerging Issues, and we were able to support the development of a digital opportunity plan for Lee and Orange counties. Neither of them have been fully adopted for various reasons. I know management is still looking at Lee counties, and I know Orange is wanting the rest of the municipalities within the county to look at their plan before taking for adoption. And we didn't do a full plan for Johnston and Moore counties, but we were able to gather some basic information and inventory of, some of the digital opportunity resources they have in their community. And I should probably clarify, like when we talk about digital opportunity, we're not so much focused on the broadband and infrastructure aspect. We're more so focused on access to devices, affordability of internet and things like that. And are you able to confidently use a device if you do have access? Obviously broadband's important, but if people can't properly utilize internet, then that's a problem in itself. So we have created, or we are in the process, I should say, of creating data profiles for all of our counties. So that's underway. And then we also are in year, I want to say 2 at this point, of a grant that we had received from the North Carolina Department of Information and Technology. So we received $800,000, and I'll go a little bit more into detail about that award to support Chatham and Durham counties. The reason we applied for this application on behalf of Chatham and Durham was because at the time, Durham was the only county in our region that had a fully adopted digital opportunity plan. Chatham had created one and was very close to that adoption. And I know Wake has made their own, or isn't still in the process, I'm not sure exactly where it is, of their own plan. And then please go to the next slide. So this is the Digital Opportunity Hub. So the funding that we got from Institute of Emerging Issue to help do some planning, development in the 4 counties that I referenced earlier, Lee, Orange, Johnston, and Moore. We get to receive implementation dollars if we have our board adopt a plan. But since we didn't make a regional plan, they were fine with us having a resolution supporting the creation of this digital opportunity hub. So that's what the resolution in your packet is referring to. But basically we're using Arc Story Map, which for those who aren't aware, it's, much more visually appealing, way to have a plan rather than having it on paper. There's lots of pictures, there's lots of infographics, lots of, click here, it'll take you here. So very interactive. On the hub, it's just your typical background of who CPRC is, what is digital opportunity, why you should care, some basic definitions like what is broadband versus digital opportunity. And then we are having a map where it will link to all of the different digital opportunity plans in our region. And then we're doing, like I mentioned earlier, a county profile for each county with specific data to their region, as well as like resources in their region. So if someone was a user and wanted to click on that, they could click on the various resources on that one pager. And then we're pulling out regional themes. So what are the common goals and strategies that we're recognizing among the different documents? And then what's next in available resources. So I know under like available resources, I'm sure we will link you to places like North Carolina Department of Information Technology, because they have a lot of data around, the state's needs. We'll link you to the state's digital opportunity plan and things like that. So next slide, please. Excuse me. And then this is just some visualization of what things on the hub look like. So like I mentioned, lots of infographics. So I just pulled out the bottom image. I just pulled out the top of the Chatham County one pager, and you can see like where the resources are, where they have free Wi-Fi in the community. And then on the right, that's an image of some of the specific to Chatham County, some of the data. And then the top left image, I just wanted to point out that, almost 33,000 households in our region alone still have no internet capable devices. So it is still a pretty heavy, issue that our region, even though we are more urbanized in some places, we do still heavily deal with that lack of access for whatever various reasons. Again, it might be affordability. It might be lack of confidence to utilize these devices and things like that. So next slide, please. And so, as I mentioned, we get implementation dollars if the board chooses to approve our resolution tonight. And I have submitted our plan for how we want to use our implementation dollars. And I will preface that it's not a ton of funding. So these are just some, again, our Institute of Emerging Issues has to approve this. So it's not set in stone. But I think that a lot of the COGs across the state are having more and more conversations. And I know like Land to Sky out in Asheville has had lots of conversations after Helene, and no plan in place to access broadband when a lot of the disruption occurred with Helene. So how can our hazard mitigation plans incorporate digital accessibility for the preparedness stage, during and after disasters? And I haven't obviously read every county's hazard mitigation plan, but I do know that a lot, and this isn't just in our region, don't really reference the digital accessibility point. So how will the most vulnerable populations get warning signs? How will they be able to charge their phones or their devices or whatever it might be if they lose, they lose access during the event of a natural disaster? Disaster. Cannot talk myself either. And then the second deliverable is, and this is not completely fleshed out, but mapping ideal locations for things like resiliency hubs. So in the event of a storm, again, this would be a place that people could go do various things, but charge their phone, charge their devices, get updates to what's happening with the weather. But there's also other benefits of resiliency hubs, like having access to food and community-based resources. So we can do things like map the social vulnerability of neighborhoods in each county in comparison to where community-based nonprofits might be, faith-based, faith-based churches, I'm trying to think, libraries, those types of community resources where could be deemed a resiliency hub or like a safe spot in the event of a natural disaster. And then I would like to have one-on-one interviews with the emergency managers or someone that they on their staff allocate that task to, but to identify what resources they've found related to like digital accessibility are the most needed during natural or man-made events, at least from previous experiences. And if there is any funding left, maybe we could purchase some low-cost equipment. And I don't know where it would be stored, like at the COG or at the counties. Haven't gotten that far, but would it like NOAA radios, Starlinks, things like that. Next slide, please. I think, and then so this isn't related to the resolution, but just wanted to provide, this will be linked on the digital digital opportunity hub as well, because the work that we've been doing in Chatham and Durham over the last couple of years. I mean, you can see we're the grant recipient. We have multiple partners: Chatham County, City of Durham, Chatham and Durham Literacy Centers, You Are Restored Ministries, which is a faith-based organization that supports justice-involved individuals and their families, and then Cramden Institute, who repurposes devices and gives them out with training, and or they sell them for very much lower costs. And so, like I mentioned, we got $800,000, and in the last, at this point, I want to say probably 12 months, oh, excuse me, that's my next slide. I was getting ahead. We're going to be providing classes to over 1,000 people within the 2 counties. And then they attend a 4-hour basic, this is very basic training about how to use a computer, how to access the internet, what questions to ask and things like that. And then at the end of the training, they get to keep their computer. And if they want additional support, they can go to some of our other partners like the Chatham and Durham Literacy Centers for their computer lab hours that they have to get additional support. And then we're also thinking through other ways to support this grant. So we've just thrown around ideas of like, do we have a device drop-off day? Because I know Cramden sometimes struggles with getting enough devices to repurpose. So the more that they can get from individuals in the community or governmental entities, the more computers they can repurpose and get into people's hands. And we've also had a lot of conversations around like creating a white paper related to rural health and digital accessibility. So those are just some topics we've discussed. Next slide, please. And I think this is my last slide. Oh, well, this is second to last, but these are the populations that we're serving with this grant. So they're referred to as covered populations. We're mostly supporting low-income individuals, aging individuals, some incarcerated individuals, and then individuals with language barriers or low levels of literacy, and individuals who are part of a racial or ethnic minority group, and then individuals who reside in rural areas, because we consider everyone in Chatham a rural constituent. Next slide, please. And this is my last slide. And just wanted to say that in the last year, these are some of the numbers, and it equates to more than 1,000 because some of these people, obviously, they're with it in multiple categories, but over 300 aging residents, over 500 ethnic or racial minority residents have attended these classes, almost 600 rural residents, 317 individuals with a language barrier, and 15 justice-involved individuals. We've completed over 60 classes to date with Cramden, and over 750 devices have been awarded. 9 classes were completed fully in Spanish, more classes to come. And then Cramden also issues a pre and post survey, so we can gauge like what are people's confidence pre-class and post. And we've gotten a lot of good feedback. Nothing really bad. I mean, everyone's really appreciative of the course and found it very valuable. So that was my last slide. And like I mentioned earlier, the resolution is more so related to us getting our implementation dollars. And I see, yeah, Commissioner Green.
Yeah, thank you. This is really great. And so I'm just curious that you said something about Orange County needing to wait on the municipality. Yes. So what's going on there?
So Chris Lawson on our staff and he's not here tonight, but he's been working very closely with the Orange County IT director, who's been fabulous, by the way, and helping to develop the plan. And the municipalities, Chapel Hill, Carborough, and Hillsborough were all a part of like the planning process and the feedback stage and everything. And they all agreed that they wanted to approve and adopt the final plan as well. So it's not completed yet because they're still providing their feedback.
What is there money in the grant to do Orange County?
The grant that I'm speaking about with the classes, no, that was a separate grant, and that's only for Chatham and Durham. So
what can be done in Orange County then if there's not the grant money?
So if we get implementation dollars, the slide that has the deliverables that I have given to. So it's kind of confusing. These are two separate grants. I just wanted to share like all of the work that we've been doing around digital opportunity. So if we approve our resolution, and if Institute of Emerging Issues, who's based out of NC State, approves this implementation plan, I mean, we call it an implementation plan, we can provide these deliverables on behalf of the entire region. But the other grant is separate and is specific to Chatham and Durham, and that was awarded almost 2 years ago at this point. And part of the reason it was awarded is a very competitive grant process through the state, where I think they received over 230 applications and only awarded 50. And part of the reason ours was successful was because Chatham and Durham already had digital opportunity plans in place that recognized what their strategies were.
Interesting. Well, I mean, I'm all for United Orange County, but I hate to think that the municipalities are slowing us down here.
Yeah.
As you know, I mean, I'm working pretty closely with our IT director right now, Commissioner He and I are, because we're trying to figure out how, we were fairly successful in using our federal dollars to get broadband throughout Orange County, but there's still some pockets that are not served, and we're following up to try to solve for that. And we know that digital literacy is a concern, but I haven't heard anything about this program. So I'm just happy to hear about it, but I also have some questions about it.
Yeah. And I'm sure if you wanted a copy of the draft, that your IT director could send it to you. And I don't know when he's planning to bring it to the Orange County Board. I had asked Chris on our staff if he knew the timeline, and he had just said that it's being routed for the municipalities to provide feedback at this time. So I would hope it would be in the next couple of months ready to go to the commissioners for adoption.
Or even to my broadband committee. I mean, I think it's the kind of thing I'll talk to Robert about that. So
yeah, and I'll let Chris on our staff know too, because he told me today, he's like, I need to schedule a meeting with Robert and get some more concrete timelines for this. So I can also mention it to him that you were interested. So yeah.
Good. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, of course. Commissioner Ferguson, did you have a question or comment?
Yeah, actually, because we have the town of Hillsborough does have a new IT director. So, I haven't heard of this either. So my question is, I'm glad to hear we were part of the planning, and maybe it's best offline, but who was involved? Because we really didn't have we now have a strong IT that we didn't have before. And kind of and just if we can get some background so that I can approach our IT person more with more knowledge.
Yeah, I know Chris and a previous employee, Tyler, had held multiple steering committees, which was representative of, IT directors if they wanted to participate, library staff, planners. I'm trying to think. I think there was a couple nonprofit voices in the room. I think that's all I can recall at this moment, but I can definitely follow up with Chris and get a list too of who the steering committee members were.
Because our Chris Johnson is Hillsborough's IT director now.
Mm-hmm.
He used to be on our planning board.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I will follow up with you tomorrow with a list of who was on that steering committee.
Okay, and because I agree with Sally, we need to move this through, but I want to have an intelligent conversation and not throw a straw in the soup.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments? I'm not seeing anyone else's hand raised. Okay. Well, I think yeah, we will just put this item then on consent unless there's any pushback with that. But yeah, Commissioner Green and Ferguson, I'll be sure to follow up with you with the requests that you've made.
All right, good to go there. That does bring us into our consent agenda. We do have a couple of draft minutes, that Digital Opportunity Hub resolution, Budget Amendment 3 resolution, and a budget amendment for Triangle West TPO. With that, I believe we're going to need a motion to approve the consent agenda. Do I have that?
So moved. And this is Kathleen with Hillsborough.
I got a second?
Second, Michelle Burton, Durham County.
Okay, and then I think we're going to need a roll call.
All right. Anger.
Chevelle Harmon, Town of Anger, I approve.
Chatham County. City of Durham. Durham County.
Michelle Burton, Durham County, I approve.
Hillsborough.
Kathleen Ferguson, Hillsborough, votes aye.
Holly Springs.
Sarah Larson, Holly Springs, approved.
Johnston County. Lee County. Is Mr. Smith still with us? I don't think I see him. Moore County. Orange County.
Sally Green, Orange, approved.
Pittsburgh. Sanford. Selma.
Byron McAllister, approve.
Wake County.
Susan Evans, Wake County, approve.
All right, motion carries.
All right. We've got ourselves a consent agenda that'll take us down to around the region. And the question I have for everybody coming out of our regional day recently, one of the topics of conversation, which was wonderfully well covered, was data centers. And I'm interested to hear from everybody what type of conversations your boards have had about data centers, and if there's either significant excitement about or some concern and consternation about data centers in our communities. Whoever would like to jump in and speak on that, love to hear about it.
I'll go. This is Michelle Burton from Durham County. We actually haven't been talking about data centers. So I think this is something here in Durham County, with Durham County government. I'm not sure if there's any data centers being built in RTP, but I can definitely find out.
Well, this is Susan from Wake. I'll say my board and has not had any specific official conversations. There is a group trying to get a data center approved just outside of Apex, which is in Apex ETJ, and so they are having to grapple with that. I don't think anyone from Apex is on this call tonight. And so indirect, it is county land, but it's in the ETJ, and Apex would have to annex them to provide the infrastructure needed. So they're the ones that are having to consider the request. They're getting a lot of public feedback, and we're getting a lot of public feedback. So we're studying the issue, but we've not actually had a conversation around the table, but I imagine we will soon. Yeah, so it's coming.
Anybody else? Anybody else had any conversations related to data centers?
This is Kathleen. We really haven't. Our feeling has been, in Hillsborough, certainly in our town limits, we're too small. There was some concern that we could end up outside of town, and the data provided during regional day, our assistant town manager has shared across the organization. Thought it was very timely. And the other piece that we are interested in, besides the data presented, is the whole discussion of decommissioning, because that's something that at least at NARC, and from what I can tell, we don't have any examples of decommissioning, or even what to plan for in an approval, especially since we now know to be aware that on-site micronuclear could be a realistic fuel option at some point in the near future. How does one go about decommissioning? What do you ask for? What do you require?
I'll weigh back in. I know just enough to be dangerous about this, and if the staff knows more, you can weigh in. But in the context of, Chatham County approving a moratorium, I think it was for a year or something, one of the things that I've been told is we have to be careful about putting a blanket moratorium on all data centers, because we actually already have several that you might not think about, like private companies that offer internet service but are running, server operations that are fairly large. They would qualify as a data center as well. So I know just enough to be dangerous, but just to put that caution out there that you might have to be careful about how you word it. Maybe it's data centers above a certain size or something before you put a blanket moratorium. But I'm opening that up to anyone on the staff that knows more than I do.
I had heard that at the General Assembly level, that the ability of locals to moratorium was not going to be possible, but I don't know if that language is still alive, if that's, or where that stands. But the
I don't
if
think
folks,
that's. Oh, I apologize. Go ahead, Kate.
I was just saying, if folks have not had a chance to review the slides from Regional Day or the white paper, really encourage it. It's chock full of relevant information to consider, and it's a lot of information.
Yeah, we can make sure to share those. I know a number of you were probably not at the event on Friday, so we can share. We had Loudoun County, Virginia commissioner, or supervisor is the term they go by there, came and presented. They're the data center capital of the world.
Oh, wow.
Trying to
They really are the data center capital of the world. That's great. I'll have to watch that.
Yeah, so I encouraged, and he's got a white paper, and we have a website page as well that is not necessarily pointing to material our staff has created, but that we have found as resources. So definitely encourage you to make sure your staff and your board are aware of that information as you need to be.
And he is available. He made himself very available for folks to reach out to him directly. He has been going around the country with data, so that boards are making informed decisions. But again, his slides, a whole lot of data. That white paper is 40 odd pages, and it's a lot, but it's worth it.
And correct me if I'm wrong, he's like an electrical engineer or something, so he understands the electrical demand and in a very technical way, and really zones in on all of that.
Yep.
But Kathleen, back to the thing that you mentioned about the legislature.
Yeah.
The only
like I said,
thing I know that might be connected, and Elena, this might have been what you were going to say, is that they did build some legislation into something else recently that supposedly prevents municipalities from downzoning on properties. And that might be involved indirectly.
Yeah, that's my only understanding of direct legislation impacting. And I know the town of Apex has been very mindful of the fact that once they put legislation and zoning ordinances in place around data centers, they will be unlikely to make changes because of the downzoning bill. And so that's, I think, the main concern at this point. From the General Assembly perspective, there could be other changes coming in this session. So.
All right. Do we have anything else on data centers? That presentation from the supervisor in Loudoun County, Virginia was absolutely impressive. And I do suggest everybody check it out and share with your boards and share with the region, because it is impressive information to understand what can land in your community. All right, we'll move right along into the chair's report. And as a report, Regional Day was amazing. Hats off to the staff for putting together fantastic presentations, a very smooth Regional Day that went by incredibly fast considering the amount of time that Regional Day took place. But every presentation was valuable. I think some of our new members and community partners were very much oohing and ahhing about the things that they were learning at Regional Day. Our staff did an amazing job putting together wonderful presentations and wonderful information. So my hat's off to our Central Pines Regional Council staff for what turned out to be an amazing Regional Day. That's all I've got.
I will piggyback on that. I was there as well. And if the staff doesn't mind sending out all that information, all the presentations, because if you have time, I think everyone would enjoy. We've gotten some of these little tidbits along the way with Lee in the last couple of years, but Mac Paul was there to do a very robust presentation of the beginnings of the vision for the Research Triangle Park and how all these various things evolved along the way. And it was just a very informative little history lesson. If you're a history buff like me, you'll want to catch that first presentation.
Amen to that. Absolutely.
I will chime in too that the presentation that Lee did for those that newly elected officials on town manager board relationships was really good. So it was, y'all have heard about the other presentations, and then the transportation angle from Matt Day was every year it's exceptional, and it was again.
I always point out that nobody ever has any questions for Matt Day because he answers every single one you could possibly have in his presentations. It's amazing. It was really impressive work. So kudos to all. Do we have anything else as far as the comments on Regional Day is concerned? All right, let's move it down. Jenny, we've got the executive director's report.
Yes, and you stole my thunder. Regional Day was on there, but we just want to thank you guys and for your support, especially Chair McAllister in helping us pull that off as well. Yes, we had great turnout. Grace has put several things in the chat linking to it. The Loudoun County white paper we will get from them and send it, and then we will have Beth compile all this and send it all out. I agree, it was some great presentations that our staff brought in. So thank you to all that attended, and yeah, please reach out if you have a chance to view it and have any questions, just let us know. And then you also stole my thunder, but just wanted to give Hope Talley another shout out. If you did not know, won CFO of the year for the state of North Carolina last week. And I had the pleasure of going down to Pinehurst when she received that award. And we couldn't be more proud or happy. And not only is she doing that, but she had a crazy intense audit this year, as well as implementing an ERP system for us right now, which is a year-long process and has taken her and her team a lot of extra hours and time right now. So we just, yeah, can't thank Hope enough for all of her hard work. And then lastly, I just wanted to briefly update you guys on the strategic plan. So as you guys know, we all met in November for a retreat, and staff has been working internally. We held our leadership retreat in end of January to continue that process, and have had several meetings since our retreat to wrap that up. And we're almost done with the draft of that for your review for the March meeting. So we will be in touch soon and be sharing that out, and really looking forward to your feedback on that. I know some of our officers have seen it, and we've done some work even since they've seen it to trim it down a little bit. So we're excited to share that with you in the next couple of weeks, and then we are still pushing for implementation on that July 1st. And that's all I have.
Very cool. Very cool. Jenny, I'm going to stop stealing thunder. I apologize, bud.
It's all right. I like it.
Well, beyond that, just other business real quick. I wanted to reiterate that we will be meeting with the Vice Chair Evans, and I will be meeting with the Chair and Vice Chair of Triangle West Transportation Planning Organization in May. I don't know the date off the top of my head. I believe it's around the middle of May, to circle back and see if we've gotten some processes and had some conversations to really make that financial relationship with Triangle West better with Central Pines Regional Council. Otherwise, is there any other business that we need to touch on before we close this thing up? Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right, very cool. I think we're all going to be on board with that one. Let's go ahead and get out of here. A wonderful, wonderful meeting. Thank you all for being here, and thank you all for caring so much about our region. Very cool. Everybody have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.